Hey everyone, Dr. Zio here again, and today we're here to talk about Power Rangers Dino Fury, episode 17? I hope that works. Power Rangers Dino Fury, episode 17, Our Hero. So, as is tradition, once the Sixth Ranger gets introduced, the episode following that introduction is usually a Sixth Ranger focused episode. So, yes, this is an Aiyon focused episode. It is filler, basically. But it's filler that I don't really like. I've never really minded filler. You know, we usually get some really good character moments, and to give us time for, everyone to just kind of breathe before the next plot-based episode. So I've never really minded filler, but I feel like this episode, paired with the previous episode, just doesn't really make much sense. And we'll go over that a little bit more about that throughout the review as well as in the conclusion. But first off, we're gonna have a lot of a big negative thing for me at the end. So let's go ahead and focus on the things I liked about this episode. So let's get to the summary of the episode. Then we'll segue into my likes, dislikes, conclusion, and then our question of the week. In this episode, the gang is chilling at the beach, which I guess there are no beaches on Ravcon, or there's no summer in Ravcon. I think it's what it was. But basically, they're chilling at the beach when some mischief happens. Jade and Jayborg cause some mischief by trying ice cream. Well, Jayborg trying ice cream for the first time, which leads an ice cream vendor's cart to go careening toward a little girl. Javi and Aiyon team up to save the little girl and stop the cart from hitting anyone else. The cart vendor rewards Aiyon and Javi with a lifetime's worth of free ice cream, right? Javi does not accept it because he doesn't believe that heroic deeds need to be rewarded. He's there to do what he does because he's a heroic person, not because he's there for the reward. Whereas Aiyon, I guess, being a knight of Ravcon was more of a job, and that they didn't really get this kind of recognition on Ravcon. So, my man soaks that stuff up. He accepts the reward, and Javi kind of gives him the side eye, like, I don't know where this is going. And, you're right, Javi. You're right to give him the side eye, because later on in the episode, when the Rangers are going up against Trawler, our monster of the week, whose main attack seems to be like throwing cages at people, he ends up throwing a cage at some civilians. Aiyon goes to save them and gets caught up in the thank you moments, and Jade and Jayborg filming for Buzz Blast, that he ends up taking selfies for them, and that lets the Rangers get captured as well, right? Jayborg eventually has to tell him, yo, Gold Ranger, your friends are in trouble, right? So Aiyon then goes to save them. The Rangers aren't too happy that, he was shirking his duties for the fame and fortune of it all. This eventually leads to Aiyon getting his Zord stolen by Trawler later on in the episode. Eventually, they get the Zord back, they have a nice little, lesson of the week moment, and then the episode ends. Again, it's a filler episode. There really wasn't anything, plot important that happened in this episode, but there were still some things to like about it. Namely, the comedy. The comedy in this episode was great. There were a few choice lines that were just absolutely funny. Like when the Rangers get captured, initially it's Zato, Ollie, and Amelia to get captured. Oh no, sorry. It's Javi and Izzy that get captured by Trawler's net. And then Javi says, and I quote, "It'll take more than that to stop our team." So Trawler throws his net again and captures Zato, Ollie, and Amelia. And Javi responds with, "Okay, that'll do it." And just the matter-of-fact delivery there, it caught me off guard. It made me laugh. It was great. There's another part later on in the episode where Mucus sees the Buzz Blast video, and so that leads Slider to coming up with a plan to draw out the Rangers with a little Rangers celebration in the park, right? So Slider again dresses up. Again, I am loving Slider's disguises because time and time again they've been good and they've gotten results. Slider's batting average is very good, and I'm gonna be so sad when they eventually destroy him. But anyway, the Rangers go there in human form, and there was a moment when the crowd was talking that someone said, the Gold Ranger's pretty cool, and then a dude says the Gold Ranger, he's pretty cute as well. I was like, oh, okay. My apparently queer dude, that was cool. Again, these little, progressive moments in Power Rangers Dino Fury have been great, and I'm proud of that. I wish that this person was on screen to say that. He was off screen, but you still heard the audio. But I guess, again, baby steps and whatnot. I'm hoping we get, a queer dude here. If not in this season, then in the next season, if there is one. But anyway, the Rangers go to the park, not in Ranger form, but just in civilian form to make sure that everything goes well there and that the people don't get attacked. Zato specifically tells Aiyon, yo, we are here as civilians, we're not going as Rangers. The crowd starts hyping up the Rangers like, Power Rangers, Power Rangers, trying to get them to come out to help celebrate and everything, right? And of course, Siler's goading them on because he's the one presenting, right? So Aiyon slips away, morphs, and then, teleports in, and then, all of them are like, oh, are you kidding me? And then Siler's like, okay, call your Zord, we want to see your Zord. And then everyone's like, Zord, 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 Zord. And then Zato's like, it's okay, he's not going to do it. And Aiyon ends up calling a Zord, and Zato's like, so, he just did it. And, that part had me howling. Like, again, the matter-of-fact delivery here on these lines is just absolutely perfect. Dino Fury is nailing the comedic moments, and I am here for every single one of them. Earlier on in the episode, there was another good moment where the Rangers are about to morph at the beach when Charlotte first appears, and they realize, oh wait, there's still people around, so they go into these dressing rooms, and then they morph, and then they come out, which reminded me of an episode in Power Rangers Ninja Storm where they were going to morph at the beach, then they realize, wait, there's still people around, so they go to a secluded part of the beach, morph, and then go save the people. A little callbacks to Ninja Storm here. It seems like that's a common theme in this season, or they've been drawing some inspiration from Ninja Storm. And I've said time and time again that if you want to do comedy, Ninja Storm is the season to draw inspiration from, because Ninja Storm had a really good blend of comedic moments and some of the more serious moments of Power Rangers. I think that's honestly one of the funniest seasons Power Rangers has ever had, and it's another season we're going to reference later on in the episode because that actually did this whole premise a little bit better back then, but we'll get to that here in just a second. So once Slider ends up taking the Mosazord, he starts to hypnotize it, which Slider mentions that he took hypnosis classes, which I thought was funny. Like, it's so surprising that a monster would be taking its hypnosis classes, but then again, Slider seems to be a very theatrical, very extra, and very out there kind of monster, so it's very on brand for him, and I love that. But when he's hypnotizing the Mosazord, he starts saying that you're going to be very evil, you're going to do things like leaving the toilet seat up, and not tipping your waitress, and destroying the Power Rangers, and just him saying you're going to leave the toilet seat up and not tip your waitress was funny as well. Like, it's just so random, but yes, it is evil. Put down the toilet seat and definitely tip your waitstaff. It's a good thing to do. I also liked how the Rangers were very much on Aiyon for shirking his Ranger duties and getting caught up in the fame, rather than, prioritizing beating Trawler. No, Amelia was especially mad. She was like, yo, no, we don't mean, what happened after you uncaged us. We mean, you were over here taking selfies with people. And I'm like, yes, Amelia, get on these people. Amelia is all about holding people accountable, and I absolutely love it. And, Zato being the good leader, he says, we can't do that. We have to be better than that, right? And, again, this shows this is like a good contrast to showing, how much of a better leader Zato is than Aiyon. But again, we will get some more of that here in just a second. Another thing I liked in this episode, though, was that when they're back in the base, if you look in the background where the Rangers keep their weapons, you can see that Aiyon's weapons are nicely laid there in the background. They're added on the left-hand side, and I like that. I like that a lot. Just a little bit of background continuity, and that's cool. There is one more spot to the right of the Rangers' weapons, which makes me wonder, what's going to go in that spot? I haven't seen Ryu's Soldier. I've seen clips here and there, so I think I have a general, vague idea of what might go there. But I don't know. Don't spoil in the comments. But yeah, we'll see what else goes in that slot. I don't know. Yeah, like I like it. I like those little moments. So I'm excited to see what eventually goes there. The Zorb battle in this episode was pretty good too. Once they end up saving Aiyon's Mosazord, Aiyon ends up calling the Dimetro Blazing Zord to kind of help free free Zord from the net, and then he combines the Dimetro's Blazing Zord with his Mosazord to form the Electro Zord. And Aiyon ends up making a comment that he came up with that Zord combination himself. I thought, that's interesting. And Javi even brings that up. He's like, wait a minute, how does somebody make up a Zord combination? I'm like, that's a really good question. I'm glad that Javi asked it, and I hope that they bring this back up later on with Aiyon actually answering that question, or even them coming up with a Zord combination on the fly. Because again, these Zords are very much based off Legos, so it would be cool to have that interchangeability brought in somehow into this season. Plus, the CG in this episode was actually pretty good. Like, I'm very much bravoing, clapping Dino Fury for its CG. It's a notable step up from the previous season. So yeah, if y'all have more CG you want to throw at us, go for it. I'm here for that. One more thing is that I'm liking how much use they're getting out of the custom Zord cockpit. Again, the Zord cockpit in Dino Fury is different from the one they had in Ryu's Soldier. Initially, I didn't really like the Zord cockpit. I thought it was a little bit plain, but they've gotten a lot of use out of it. They've been adding sparks in here every so often. They've been changing out some of the platforms for the 3, 5, and 2 Ranger Zord combinations, or even 6 Ranger Zord combinations, where 6 Rangers are in the Zord, but it's not all 6 Zords combining, or it doesn't really necessitate having more than an individual Ranger in there. And I really like that. Like, it's nice. It's nice to have all the Rangers, or a necessary amount of Rangers, participate, but you don't really have to. But that aside, when the Dimetro Blazing Zord ends up freeing the Dino Fury Megazord and Tiger formation, I think it's called, from the net. Obviously the Dimetro Zord's a Fire Zord, the Mosazord's Electric Zord, so it's spitting flaming electricity bolts, I guess, or thunderbolts, and that frees the Dino Fury Megazord, but it also kind of sets it on fire, unfortunately, and the Zord starts hopping around, and we cut into the cockpit of the Zord, and the alarms are going off because they're on fire. And so the Javi ends up using a boost key to kind of take out the fire and everything. But I like the added element of having the Rangers on the inside, like in the cockpit, the alarms going off and everything. That was a nice little touch that they didn't really have to include, but they did. So props on that. And then even them, kind of shooing away the fire was cute. Like, yeah, it was a fun thing to see the Zord do that. But yeah, those are all my likes. So let's get to the dislikes in this episode, which really the only thing I didn't like about this episode was Aiyon's characterization. Like, look, I understand that the Knights of Ravcon didn't receive recognition for saving their people and doing their knightly duties. So I understand Aiyon getting swept up in the fame and fortune of being a Power Ranger. What I don't like, though, is the fact that this was at the cost of his friend's safety, right? Him taking selfies with just random people and getting on Buzz Blast footage meant that his team was in danger. His team got captured in that net because Aiyon wasn't paying attention to the fight at hand. His Zord got captured because he was too stupid not to pop up there in Ranger form and not to call a Zord. Like, it doesn't make sense in the context of the previous episode. In the last episode was our first appearance of Aiyon, so we're shown that yes, he has a carefree side, but he also cares very much about the people close to him. This is the kind of person that Aiyon is. This is the same person who demanded that Zato give over leadership for putting his people in danger by going forward with releasing the Sporix Beast, which Aiyon was totally in the right there. I understood where he was coming from in that moment. But to go from that first impression of Aiyon to this version of Aiyon, where he's putting his friends in danger for the fame and fortune of being a Power Ranger, it doesn't make any sense. Especially the fact that he got his Zord captured. That really, really bothered me. Like, that was so reckless. Like, just calling your Zord for no reason, that's like 100% Zordon, don't escalate a battle if you don't need to. there's no battle here. Don't call your Zord. What are you doing? Like, that could have hurt somebody somehow. Like, that's so incredibly reckless. It doesn't make sense in the context of the last episode. Like, I would have been fine with that happening if we didn't have that last episode to go off of. This would be fine. So, Aiyon has not experienced Earth culture. He is completely new here. Like, I would be 100% fine with him doing this, learning a lesson of the week, if we didn't have that last episode to go off of. Pairing this with the last episode, what really bothers me. That said, this seems like a very much a modernization of Power Rangers Ninja Storm episode 24, tongue-in-cheek, where a very similar situation happens where Dustin, the Yellow Ranger of the season, ends up saving Storm Chargers, kind of like one of the places that the Rangers hang out at, in Ranger form, right? And he ends up getting in the newspaper. The fans start blowing up with Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger. They're hyped up for him. And Dustin, being the person that he had never received that much recognition growing up, or even now. So to get that, he becomes overwhelmed with it, right? But he doesn't let that endanger the people, and he does let it kind of endanger Tori later on in the episode. She gets caught by the monster, but him and Shane are having an argument which leads to her being caught by the monster. They quickly resolve this argument to go and save her. Nobody has to tell Dustin, hey, Tori's in danger, or hey, you two should be paying attention to Tori instead of having an argument. Dustin's able to recognize the error of his ways, resolve everything, go save their friend, and continue on with the episode without having anyone beat him, without having anyone tell him, she's over here in danger, and you need to be more responsible. Like, yes, Sensei, Sensei, and Shane and Tori end up telling him that, your Ranger duties are more important than being famous. Like, he understands that, right? He doesn't pay attention to it, but he understands that. But at the end of the day, he doesn't do anything that really puts people in serious harm's way. Whereas my man Aiyon is over here putting his friends, all 5 of his friends, in harm's way. He's putting the civilians in harm's way by calling his Zord and needlessly escalating a situation that didn't need to be escalated in the first place. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And Lord Zed's out there. And to put your Zord in a situation where he can get captured, then you would be down one more Zord. Like, what if they had turned that evil? Like, Sila's whole plan here was to turn the Zord evil. What if they accomplished that? What if they managed to drag the other Dino Fury Zords back underwater, where they don't work, right? Where we established in the last episode that the Ranger Zords do not work underwater. If they could have destroyed the Zords, and then you're screwed in that case. Void Knight can go ahead, capture all the rest of the Sporix, and you're screwed. Like, I am just super irresponsible in this episode, and I didn't like it. Anyway, rant aside, in conclusion, I thought this episode, as a standalone episode, it was good. It was entertaining. Like, the comedic moments are really what held up this episode, and the little bits of continuity, with the Aiyon's weapon getting added in the background, it was nice. But Aiyon's characterization in this episode was really the cloud that kind of hung over it for the entire runtime. I've watched this episode multiple times. I can't separate episode 17 and episode 16 in my own head. Like, I can't separate the fact that this man was just asking for leadership in the previous episode. But yeah, depending on how you look at it. If you look at it as a standalone episode, it's good. If you look at it paired with episode 16, it's just okay. Like, without those comedic moments, this would be, no, I would say it's a bad episode. But yeah, the comedy in this episode holds up, but that's to be expected. The comedy in this season has been good. So yeah, let me know what y'all think about the episode in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Zio. Stay safe, get your vaccination if you can, mask up, go out and enjoy the weekend, and I hope you have a good day. Peace.